Preview.
Drew anger urgent image mountvernon.org Monticello.org. It's become very in vogue now to tear down offensive statues in America. On Monday, a Confederate statue in Durham, North Carolina was ripped to the ground by a mob of progressive protesters. The protesters cited the statue's racist, violent symbolism for their actions. Left-wing protesters also clashed with right-wing protesters this weekend who were gathered at a Robert E. Lee statue in Virginia. The clash turned deadly and President Trump was asked to comment on the vandalism at a press conference on Tuesday. President Trump had a blunt retort, asking where the lines would be for tearing down of national monuments. You have people in that group that were there to protest the taking down to them of a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think? Thomas Jefferson, do you like him? Okay, good. He was a major slave owner. Are we going to take down his statue? So you know what, it's fine. You're changing history, you're changing culture. Trump has a point. Here are reports on the slave-owning statuses of Washington and Jefferson, two of America's most revered founding fathers. George Washington. According to mountvernon.org, at the time of Washington's death, the Mount Vernon enslaved population consisted of 317 people. Sources offer differing insight into Washington's behavior as a slave owner. On one end of the spectrum, Richard Parkinson, an Englishman who lived near Mount Vernon, once reported that it was the sense of all his Washington's neighbors that he treated his slaves with more severity than any other man. Conversely, a foreign visitor traveling in America once recorded that George Washington dealt with his slaves far more humanely than do his fellow citizens of Virginia. What is clear is that Washington frequently utilized harsh punishment against the enslaved population, including whippings and the threat of particularly taxing work assignments. Perhaps most severely, Washington could sell a slave to a buyer in the West Indies, ensuring that the person would never see their family or friends at Mount Vernon again. Washington conducted such sales on several occasions. Thomas Jefferson seen a tragedy image. According to the New York Times, rather than encouraging his countrymen to liberate their slaves, he opposed both private manumission and public emancipation. Even at his death, Jefferson failed to fulfill the promise of his rhetoric. His will emancipated only 5 slaves, all relatives of his mistress Sally Hemings, and condemned nearly 200 others to the auction block. Even Hemings remained a slave, though her children by Jefferson went free. Nor was Jefferson a particularly kind master. He sometimes punished slaves by selling them away from their families and friends, a retaliation that was incomprehensibly cruel even at the time. A proponent of humane criminal codes for whites, he advocated harsh, almost barbaric, punishments for slaves and free blacks. Known for expansive views of citizenship, he proposed legislation to make emancipated blacks outlaws in America, the land of their birth. Opposed to the idea of royal or noble blood, he proposed expelling from Virginia the children of white women and black men. The logic is sound, so where is the line on revisionist history? Condoleezza Rice said recently, when you start wiping out your history, sanitizing your history to make you feel better, it's a bad thing. This is a commentary piece. The views expressed in this article are those of just the author. Share on Facebook. 9.5K shares. View comments. 9 comments.